Okay, Rabbi Sonnenschein. So first of all, I want to, before I start, I want to thank Rabbi Woznicki and the Woznicki family for hosting this very, very, very special Masiba each year. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give them the opportunity to continue to fill their house with simchas and with Torah, lahagdil Torah, la'adira. And a special thank you to someone who I feel honored to call a friend, to Reb Nachum, who besides for sponsoring tonight's Masiba, but he has a knack for leaving messages on my phone exactly when I need them most. And when I most need a good, encouraging Geshmaka message, somehow I end up with a message on my phone, and I'm you know what messages I'm talking about over the years, and I'm very, very grateful for them. Thank you. I want to talk about something that is very, 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 very precious, and some chidushim that came up over the past few days. Let's start with this. We heard tonight in the Megillah that Yumei HaPurim Ha'ele Lo Ya'avru. These days of Purim will not pass. They won't go away. And there's a Yalkut in Sefer Mishlei that says about this, and there's a similar Rambam, that Kol HaMoyado Isasidin Lihi Batel, that all Yamim Tovim will become Batel, Lasid Lavai. Do you know what that means? Except for Purim. Purim won't become Batel. And I have two kashas. First of all, what does it mean that all the Moyados are going to become Batel? And second of all, why not Purim? What's special about Purim, about the Yontif of Purim, that it's still Noigeya even after Asid Lavai? One time at a Purim Suda, Rav Hutner posed the following question. He said that we know that Purim is a time of Kabbalah Satira. Kimu v'kiblu ha'yehudim aleim v'alzaram. Purim is a time of Kabbalah Satira. And when Klal Yisrael was Makabel the Torah, they were Makabel the Torah, Anoshim, Noshim, V'taf, the whole Klal Yisrael stood together, Ke'ish Echad, B'leiv Echad. And yet, the Kabbalah Satira of Purim is described in the Megillah as Mishpacha u'Mishpacha. Take a look at it. At the end of the Megillah, it says Mishpacha u'Mishpacha. I'm old friends with that pasuk, because many years ago, when I was living in Eretz Yisrael, and my wife went back to America 2.5 weeks before Purim because we were expecting a simcha and they weren't going to let her fly, and I stayed in the Zman for 2.5 weeks, and I went to tell by Rosh Hashiva that I was going to go home for Purim to be with my wife, and I was afraid to ask him Rishus because I thought he wouldn't give it. So I said something awkward like, I just want to share with the Rosh Hashiva what I'm thinking. And he said back to me, leaning into the awkwardness, he said, I hear what you're thinking about staying here for 2.5 weeks, but I don't hear what you're thinking about leaving before Purim. You should be in yeshiva for Purim. So I said, it says Mishpacha u'Mishpacha. And he said, that's not what that means. But if you need to go, so go. And I went. I spent a lot of time over the years trying to find out what it does mean. But clearly there's an inyan of mishpacha, like this mishpacha. This is also a mishpacha. Sitting around the table together with good friends. That's also a mishpacha. The Kabbalah Satira of Purim is not everyone together. It's groups. It's mishpacha u'mishpacha. What is it about the Kabbalah Satira of Purim? Look in Rashi on Mishpacha u'Mishpacha. He makes it clear that it's going back on the words Kimu v'Kiblu. What is it about the Kimu v'Kiblu, about Purim, that's special, that it's Dafka Mishpacha u'Mishpacha? So I want to chazer over with the Olam a Maral that we learned on Shabbos, this Shabbos, which anyone that was there when we learned the Maral wants to hear it again anyway. No, it was just delicious. Haman is mekatreg to Achashverosh. Haman decides that he must wipe out Klal Yisrael, Am Mordechai, and he makes a play. He makes a case to Achashverosh for the destruction of Klal Yisrael. And he says, Yesh noi am echad. There is, funny word, yesh noi. Could have just said yesh am echad. But he says, Yesh noi am echad. Mefuzar u mefayrod beino amim. B'chol medinos malchusecha. V'dosehem shoynos mikolam. Their laws are different than all laws. They have weird customs. V'yezdosei hamelech einam oisim. They don't do the king's customs. V'lamelech ein shoyvel lahanichem. It's not worthwhile to leave them. The Maharal dives deep into this pasuk, and he says something unbelievable. Says the Maharal that we know that Klal Yisrael's power is its being unified and separate from the world around it. That's the power. Rabbi Yosef, there's a seat right here. We know that that's the power of Klal Yisrael. And as Bilam said about Klal Yisrael, Bilam said, Hein am levadad yishkain. Hein am, this nation, levadad yishkain, dwells alone. Hashem badad yanchenu. Klal Yisrael is strong when it's alone, when it's just us, when we're not connected to the world around us. That's when we're powerful. Hein am levadad yishkain ubagayim lo yischashav. And Haman told Achashverosh, if you see the Gemara and Daf Yud Gimel and Megillah, the Gemara says that Achashverosh was very hesitant before attacking the Jewish people, as he should be, because it's a dangerous move to make. And Achashverosh was worried, and he was telling Haman his concerns, that Elokehem shel Elu, their God is powerful. And Haman was like, don't worry, they are compromised. Yeshnai am echad. It's true they're one nation, but they're mefuzar u mefayrod beino amim. They're not together. So they're not at full power, and you don't have to be afraid of them. There's a medrash, Bamidbar Rabbah. The medrash says an unbelievable thing. We know that a whole number is 10. 10 is a whole number. 10 ma'amoros, the world was created. The neshama has 10 parts. There's aseres hadibros, 10 makos, 10 doiros. 10 is a whole number. Now, in order to get 10, you can combine two numbers. You can combine 1 and 9, 2 and 8, 3 and 7, 4 and 6, 5 and 5. 5 doesn't connect with any other numbers. 5 only finds its shleimus within itself. 5 and 5. Same thing is true with the 10s to get 100. You can connect 10 to 90, and 20 to 80, and 30 to 70, and 40 to 60, but 50, none. Only way it can find its shleimus is not by reaching out to any other numbers. It's only by leaning into itself. Says the Medrash. That's what Bilam said. Hein am levadad yishkain. Hey and nun, the two letters that only find shleimus within themselves, that they don't connect to others. Hein, when it's the hein, when it's a hey and a nun, that's the am levadad yishkain, the nation that's living alone, separate, secluded. That's the medrash. Zok the Maharal. That no, but it's not true anymore. They're mefuzar u mefayrod, right? Dugma ledavar. There was once a powerful group of people who were powerful l'ra, not l'tov. And they were called Safa Achas Udvarim Achadim. The Dar Haflaga. They were united. They were a power because they were united. How did HaKadosh Baruch Hu weaken them? Vayofetz Hashem. Hashem spread them out. That weakened them. Says Haman to Achashverosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has weakened Klal Yisrael. They're not at full power. They're not Hein Am Levadad Yishkain. They're beyond Hein. What's beyond 55? 56. 56 represents no longer 55. Says the Maral, Yesh Noi Am Echad, Nun Vav. No longer 55. Yesh Noi. The Maral says this. I don't put up with it if I say something like that. Okay? But the Maral says this. And we know with the Maral that we're barely, I said on Shabbos, that I don't even think we're right to say that we're scratching the surface. Maybe we're touching the surface. But the Maral says, Yesh Noi, Yesh Nun Vav, not Nun Hey. Nun Hey is completely secluded. Nun Vav is you've moved on from Nun Hey. Yesh Noi Am Echad. They're Mefuzer U'Mefayra, Dein Ha'amim. And therefore, Haman tells Achashverosh, you do not have to worry about them. This is unbelievable. The Maral says that Haman ta'a b'zeh. Haman, man, this is the yesod that we need to know. That Haman made an incredible misstep. He misjudged. He miscalculated when he said, Yesh Noi Am Echad. Because, think about it, says the Maral. What shows more that Klal Yisrael is united and separate from the nations of the world? When we're all in a different country and we're separate from the nations of the world? Or we can be mixed into all 127 Medinas and still be separate from all of them? Which shows our power of being Levadad more? Says the Maral, Haman made a mistake. He thought the fact that we're spread out among the nations showed a weakness. But then, and the emes is it showed a strength. That even though we're in the middle of nowhere in Waterbury, Connecticut, we still are Levadad. We still get our strength from each other. We're still Hain. We still don't reach out to the world around us. We stand alone. We serve Hashem alone. We learn Torah alone. We're still Hain Am Levadad Yishkain. Said a big Talmud Chacham on this Maral, and the Balei Tefillah in the room, Shmuel, Rabbi Yosef, you'll appreciate this, because on Yom Kippur night, we say, Has kategar, v'kach sanegar mekoymai, right? Quiet down the mekatreg, the prosecutor, and let the sanegar take his place. Says one of the Gedolei HaMachshava, he said, shut down the kategar and put the sanegar in his place. What the kategar is saying, that's an argument for the sanegar. It's a great shot. Kach sanegar mekoymai. Haman is coming and saying, these people, they're not unified and alone anymore. They're spread out among all the nations. Stop right there, Haman. Great point. Kach sanegar mekoymai. Let the sanegar take that spot. That's amazing. Afrei Lechem Purim. Let the Sanegar take that spot. That amazing? Has kategar v'kach Sanegar mekoymai. And somebody else wanted to taina an unbelievable thing based on this. That means we are Nun Hey, right? We're not Yeshnai. We are Nun Hey. We are still Levadad, even when we're among the nations. Said also another Baal Machshava wanted to say about this Maral, that there's a Pachad Yitzchak in Rosh Hashanah, Maimer Daled Ois Gimel. Don't pay attention to the Mafteach where it says it's Ois Beis. It's Ois Gimel. Who quotes, he doesn't say who he quotes, Kedarkei B'Kodesh, but if you do a little research, he quotes the Hakdama to the Chinuch. And the Hakdama of the Chinuch says that in Golus, our ability to be Mekayim mitzvahs is very limited. We're not able to do all 613 mitzvahs. We can't bring karbanas, and we can't build a base on Mikdash, and we can't build kalim, and we can't do mitzvahs atliyas ba'aretz. We're very limited in mitzvahs aseh and mitzvahs lo aseh. Says the chinuch that b'derech klal in Galus, Klal Yisrael is shayach to 270 mitzvahs. 270. Reish ayin, or ayin reish. Says the chinuch. The Chinuch himself, check it out. In Igeres HaMechaber, in the beginning of the Sefer, says the Chinuch himself, a remez ledavar, ani yeshena, v'libi ayin reish is 270. He says, ani yeshena, even when I'm asleep in Gullus, we're not on full power, we're not fully awake, we're not fully there, we're fashlaft a little bit, Klal Yisrael is not on full power. We're sleepwalking. But there's something alive in us. There's something awake in us. You know what that is? The mitzvahs that we still can do today in Galus. How many are there? 270. So Ani Yeshena V'libi Er, my heart is awake, 270. 270 is my heart is awake. Said about Machshava, Ani Yeshna, not Yeshnai. Ani Yeshena, I am sleeping. Yeah, I'm in Galus, but you know what kind of sleeping I am? Not Yeshnai. Not that I'm not secluded. Yeshna, I'm still Hain. I still have the Nun Hey. I'm still Hain. Hain am levada diyishkain. I'm still living alone. I'm still secluded. I'm still separate from the nations around me. Haflei v'fela. And of course, the Maharal says you could only imagine, and this is something different. We've done a lot of Baruch Hashem. We've had the schus to go through a lot of sugyas by this table, but this is something new for us, for our chabura. This is something new, a new insight that the Maharal says. That you can understand yourself, the tragedy of Nehenu Mesudas Achashverosh, because they were bonding with the nations of the world. A little bit of a different angle than we've taken in the past. But the Maharal says they were bonding, they were sitting and celebrating with the nations of the world. They were bonding with the nations. Instead of being Hain, instead of it being Minei Ubei within themselves, they were bonding with the nations of the world. And that was the Puranis. That's what was so tragic about the Sudas Achash, and that's why Haman was able to get a foothold in. So although Haman made a mistake, because our Midah in Galus is that we're Hain, but there was a misstep in those days in that area. There was a misstep. Nehenu Mesudasai Shalaisai Russia. And now you understand. This is very important. Because everybody knows in this room, which is full of people that have a tremendous sense of sensitivity to this kind of Torah, in this room, I don't have to tell you that when it says that Esther told Mordechai, "Lech knois kol haYehudim," that he was saying to create Achdus, knois kol haYehudim. I don't have to tell you that, right? We understand that. But there's a Maila here. I heard this for a long time ago from my Rosh Yeshiva, and many of you know this. There's a story, I've written it in the newsletter a couple of times. There's a story about the Rizhiner when he was a child, a famous story, that he came home from yeshiva one day, and his father asked him what he learned that day, and he was learning Parshas Yisro. And he said he learned the pasuk of Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Hahar. Klal Yisrael camped in front of Har Sinai. And he said, and how did Rebbe say Pshat? He said, Klal Yisrael faced the mountain, expectantly waiting for Ma'amad Har Sinai. And then his father asked him, and how do you teach the pasuk? Which is so good, no? To teach a kid that Rebbe has a Pshat. But what's your Pshat? What's your flavor? What's your midah? What's your approach? We're not robots. What's your Pshat? Said the Rishiner, my Pshat is Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Ahar, is that their backs were to the world. Because the other side of the coin, of fully facing Har Sinai, is fully facing away from all the nations of the world. I want to be Mechadish to you, Rabbi Say, and tomorrow when we read the Megillah, tell me if it doesn't resonate as you're going through the Megillah, that when Esther said to Mordechai, Lech knois kol haYehudim, gather together all the Jews, she wasn't just saying to gather them together with each other, she was saying to gather them away from the Ummah Yisraelim. Nehenu Mesudas Achashverosh is that they were too plugged in to society. And Lech knois kol haYehudim is Yidden, like this beautiful, beautiful table, Yidden should be sitting around and farbringing with Yidden. Nun Hey, the Nun becomes 100 only if it attaches to another Nun, and the Hey becomes 10 only when it attaches to another Hey. And the Yid is a Groise Yid only when he attaches to another Yid. I even think that it's possible to say that when Mordechai went out, Vayetze b'Seicha Ir, Vayizak Tze'aka Gedaila Umara, he cried out a bitter cry. Those of us that have been learning Navi together have learned that the word vayizak means to scream, but it also means to gather together. When Shaul gathered Klal Yisrael together for Milchama, it says in Shmuel Aleph, we learned Hillel in Perek Yudalid, it says vayizoek Shmuel es ha'am. He gathered together. Probably it comes from the fact that you call everyone together. You scream and everyone comes together. That's probably the similarity. But Mordechai went out b'soicha ir and he said, Klal Yisrael, come together. Nikhalu ha-Yehudim. The Yehudim gathered together. They came together. Nikhalu ha-Yehudim. By Yizak, Za'aka Gedayla Umara. A bitter coming together. Which brings me back to the Mishpacha u'Mishpacha. Think about it. Think about it. When Klal Yisrael was makabel the Torah by Har Sinai, Vayichan Sham Yisrael neged hahar, the beauty of the Kabbalah HaTorah was that everyone stood together, separate from the nations of the world, a nation together. Unbelievable. Backs to the world. Facing the mountain together. And the whole Klal Yisrael was makabel the Torah together. But by the story of Purim, there's something else, isn't there? There's a Maila even higher than that came about because of Galus. The Haman's mistake. That there's a greater strength that's Nizgala. That we can do this in Galus. That we could be mefuzzer, spread out. You have to know pshat in the pasuk. Mefuzzer means spread out. But mefayrod means separate. Separate from the nations. Mefuzzer, the way I read the pasuk is mefuzzer yet mefayrod. They're mefuzzer, but yet they're mefayrod bein ha'amim. They're separate from, and Mefarshim learn that way. They're separate from the nations. So there's a Kabbalah of the Eiros, of the Hashpah of Purim. We don't want to gather everyone together. We lose something. The whole godless of Purim is that we demonstrated that even Galus doesn't break our Hein Am Levada Yishkain. Even spreading us out over 127 Medinas doesn't break Hein Am Levada Yishkain. So Har Sinai was an unbelievable manifestation of Hein Am Levada Yishkain. But the Kabbalah HaTorah of Purim is a Kabbalah HaTorah of Mishpacha u'Mishpacha. Because the shuks will be with the fishers and the shares in their place. And the Sonnenscheins will be with the Wiznickis in another place. And so on and so forth. And everyone will be in their places. And will be separate sudas. We think. We know how we'll start. And yet, Rabbi Shuk, your Suda and my Suda are going to be Sudas of brothers. Suda of connection. A Suda that I know what's going on over there, and what's going on over here, and what's going on over here, Mefuzar u Mefayrad, is all Hein Am Levada Yishkain. We all know who we serve, and what our agenda is, and what our goal is, and how we feel about each other, and how much we value and the existence of another Yid. So yes, there's a beauty dafka to Mishpacha u'Mishpacha, specifically to Mishpacha u'Mishpacha. We're going to be makabel the Torah in the Mefuzar u'Mefayrad. Within the world of Mefuzar u'Mefayrad, we're going to be makabel the Torah. Haflei v'fela. Which brings me back finally. Rav Nachum, now we're allowed to have as much fun as we want. Which brings me back finally to where we started. Kol hamayadois asidim libatel chutz bipurim. V'yimei hapurim ha'ela lo yavru. I'm very grateful that I discovered a mashal tonight that speaks to what I wanted to say about this. And of course, I found it in Chafetz Yitzchak, in Maimer Lamed Daled, where he says a mashal, and it's an unbelievable mashal, and his kayach, Rav Hutner's kayach of Mishalim was unbelievable, because the Mishalim are the simplest of Mishalim, and they just go deeper and deeper and deeper once you chap the mashal. And the mashal, Rav Hutner's mashal, is as follows. He says like this. He says, imagine that you have two people that were commanded to identify people in the dark. Your job, your sentries, your guards, whatever it is, your job, the two of you, Ruvain and Shimon, the two of you, your job is to identify people in the dark. Ruvain needs to identify people in the dark. He gets himself a candle. He gets himself in there. And using the candle, he's able to recognize people in the dark. Shimon doesn't have a ner. He can't afford a ner. So how is he supposed to learn to recognize people in the dark? So Shimon works on himself. Says the Rosh Hashiva Zatzal. Shimon works on himself to become an expert in recognizing people from their voices. Because he can't see them, but you could say, who are you? And he could recognize if they really are the person they say they are. Because he learns the Tvius Eina Dekala, how to hear. So you have Ruvain, who uses a candle to recognize people, and you have Shimon, who can't see. He has no candle, but he learns to recognize people's voices. Maybe Ruvain, he says, could see better. And maybe he could even have an easier job and more clarity than Shimon. He says, but there's an adifus of Shimon over Ruvain. The adifus of Shimon over Ruvain is that the morning will come and the sun will rise, and Ruvain's going to throw his candle away because it's going to become useless to him, and Ruvain will have gained nothing from the nighttime. He learned nothing. He acquired nothing. He managed to see in the night because he had a candle. But Shimon, when the morning comes, he has a new talent. He has a kayach that he didn't have before the night. Before the night started, he didn't know how to hear, how to recognize people from their voices. And now that the morning came, now not only could he see, but his shmiya, his hearing is so much sharper. That's the mashal. And the nimshal, based on what we said tonight, the nimshal is that, you know why the mayadais are asidim libatal, whatever it means halachically, that the mayadais asid libatal, but the inyan of the mayadais asidim libatal is an inyan of, like we say, like the pasuk, v'lo yoymar oid chai Hashem asher hela eschem eretz Mitzrayim. That it says that when the geula asida comes, you'll no longer swear by a Hashem who took you out of Mitzrayim, because you'll have so much bigger nisim to be recognizing Hashem for. My Rosh Hashiva once told us that's the pshat. We have to start talking about Pesach. He said that's why Rabbi Yehuda hayanoisein bohem simanim detzach adash be'achav. Have I ever told you this? That there are simanim. We never did a seder together. There are simanim. The tzach adash be'achav said by Rosh Hashiva that the point was to say they're just a siman, to show that Yitzias Mitzrayim is going to become just a siman. It's going to become just a nekuda that's being mesamein. It's just being meramis to a much, much, much bigger geula. So it's like becomes contracted because it's like a prelude to Asad Lavai v'lo yoymar oid chai Hashem, where when the Hadgasha is not going to be about Yitzias Mitzrayim. Yitzias Mitzrayim will always be that first geula. But Yitzias Mitzrayim won't be the most powerful geula. And that's what it means when it says Kol hamoyadais asidim ligael. Because we are going to experience salvations, Yeshuas, Nisim, Be'ezer Hashem B'Karev, that are so phenomenal, that are so mind-blowing, that the Nisim that Klal Yisrael experienced until now will pale in comparison. And that's an inyan of Kol HaMoedos Hasidim Libot. Yitzias Mitzrayim, you call that a Nes. Matan Torah, you call that a Gilui. Wait till you see what's coming. But Purim won't be batal, because when the Geula comes, and we're all sitting together, and we're Hein Am Levadad Yishkain, but there's still going to be something we got from Purim that we don't have even then. The power of our unity even when we're separate. And that koyach will come with us back to the Geula. We're not the same. We're not the same. When we sit mishpacha u'mishpacha, and we're bonding together as Yidden, and in our hearts we're connecting with all Yidden all over the globe. And when we hear the Balkairi lanes the Megillah, and he says, Lech Knais Kol HaYehudim, Erlich Yidden, think about the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael, and the Yidden in Europe, and the Yidden in Asia, and the Yidden who are distant from Yiddishkeit, and the Yidden that don't even know they're Yidden. And we think about all of that, and we daven for the time of Olu Mashiach B'Hartziyah and Lishbeit Esaresav to the ultimate Knais Kol HaYehudim. We're developing a superpower of we could be united even if we're on different sides of the world. When the Moyados are Asidim Libatel, but that can't be batel, because that's something, that's a power that we got from experiencing the Nes of Purim in Galus. From being Mekabel the Torah Mishpacha or Mishpacha. That's where we got it from. So Memela, Kol HaMoyados Asidim Libatel Chutz Mi Purim, because Pesach will say I have a better Pesach. And Shavuos will say, I have a better Shavuos. But you'll never be able to say, I have a better Purim. Because Purim showed us that even in Gullus we could be Makabel the Torah. Even in Gullus we could remain united. Even in Gullus we could experience Nisim. So Memela, that's what I think, based on this mashal, I think that's what it means, that Kol HaMoyados Asidim Libatel Chutz Mi Purim. And this sugya for us is halacha l'maisa. It's not just. I think it's a big chidushim for us. I think it's big chidushim here, but I think that there's something very, very important for us, because we are sitting in Galus, and Yidden struggle through Galus, and there's different kinds of struggles, and all of us have our journey and our struggle. And when Purim comes, this time of Knais Kol HaYehudim, we do a dual action that comes exactly at the same time. We do a Knais Kol HaYehudim. On the one hand, as the Maral himself says over there, I've never seen this. Check it out. Those of you that have learned Maral, I believe, if I'm seeing correctly, the Maral gets emotional. You haven't never seen that, right? The Maral, it's very machshavadik. The Maral starts saying, Ashreinu u'matov chelkeinu. If we'll be zeiche to live apart from the Goyim, to not imitate their ways, to not dress in their clothing, to not live with their minhagim. Ashreinu u'matov chelkeinu, if we could do that, because that's the Hein Am Levada Yishkain. And that's one avodah that we have on Purim, is the Knais Kol HaYehudim of gathering together to the exclusion, the unplugging, places zum Welt, back to the world, like the Rishner said, to disconnect from everything around us. And if we can't, if we're not ready, we're not holding, and it's very hard in a Gullus to fully disconnect. It's hard. But Rabbi say one day we could disconnect. And that day is today. For the day of Purim, let's disconnect. For the day of Purim, let's just hang out with Yidden. Let's sing Shalai Asani Goy. Let's sing Ashreinu Matov Chelkeinu Manoim Goyrolenu. Let's thank Hashem, not for any other reason, just Vasich ben Yid, because I'm a Yid, because Hashem chose me. So that's the first thing that we do, is that we disconnect. But we need to look around the table. We need to look around our beautiful Kehillah. We need to look around at our beautiful nation. And we need to see the faces around us and appreciate the preciousness, the beauty, the greatness, the midas tovos, how much there is to learn one from the other. if we're truly going to disconnect from the world around us, if the hay only becomes shalem with another hay, and the nun only becomes shalem with another nun, then the yid only becomes shalem with another yid. And that means to recognize gadlus in each other. And it means that this Purim, we have to work on ourselves. To look at ourselves and to look at our friends with an ayin tova. And to see the greatness of the people around us. Because there truly is tremendous beauty and tremendous greatness in each person. And to appreciate how fortunate we are. Ashreinu matayv chelkeinu. I can't think of the entire world of people I'd rather spend the night with and learn Torah with and farbreng with. To realize how fortunate we are, that we have our mishpachas, that we have each other, and that we have our kehila, and that we have the meistas that we have, and to be able to just appreciate Knais Kol HaYehudim. Nikhalu HaYehudim. The Yehudim became a kehila again. Even if they were spread out among 127 Medinas, they became a kehila again. Klal Yisrael is facing threats from the outside. But today is a day that we face with confidence. And that we know that there's nothing that's more powerful than Hein Am Levadad Yishkain. And we are going to celebrate for the next 24 hours. We are going to celebrate Be'ezer Hashem, Haman's mistake. Haman's mistake. That's our celebration. The terrible mistake of Haman. Haman thought that Befuzar u'Mefayrad Bein Ha'amim will weaken us. And boy, did he misstep, mistake, underestimate, miss the mark on the power that we have in Klal Yisrael. Because when we're separated from each other, we draw even closer together. So let's use tonight's Mesiba not just as a time to discuss the Divrei Torah of tonight, but as a haschala for the whole rest of the day. The tomorrow's Kriyas HaMegillah and the Mitzvahs Hayom and the Sudas and the Farbrengen. Let's greet each other, our friends, our neighbors, with Ava and Kavod and a sense of really feeling lucky that we know each other. Really feeling fortunate that we get to live together in a Kehillah together. And if we do that, we'll be screaming out Haman's mistake. And we'll be screaming out Hein Am Levadad Yishkain. Yeshna V'libi er. Ani yeshna v'libi er. And with Hashem's help, we'll be zoicha to be able to return v'alu maishiyim b'hartziyah in l'shpeitas haresav, to be able to return with the destruction of Amalek and all of the nations who are Amalek's proxies should be able to, will be destroyed, and we'll be able to go back with our new superpower. And we'll go back again to Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Ahar, surrounding the Beis HaMikdash, but with a new dimension of connection. Kein Yoymar Hashem, Afrei Lechem Purim, Yashikaya. Ashreinu